Hey everybody, let me know how we're doing on audio and video, if everything's coming in clearly over on your end. And while you're at it, let me know where you're joining us from. Looks like we got Yuns. Hopefully I said your name right. Hello. Cool, cool. We got Matthias or Matthias. I am sure I said that wrong. How's it going? We got Braj. Cool. Cool. Paquin. Oh boy. Here's a name I'm gonna have to try hard to get. Let's see. Maindersin Ramgaria? I'm sorry, I cannot say everybody's name. Oh boy, we got Sam. Morning, joining from San Jose. Good morning. I'm also on the West Coast here. Ibrahim, cool. Onur. Kaka. The Viterball. Hey, what's up? How are ya? Oh. I just slam dunked a egg and bacon breakfast burrito, so I'm pretty fueled up. I'm on coffee number 2. We did a hike, about a 4-mile hike this morning in the mountains, so we're feeling good. What's the last thing you guys ate? Sim from Heidelberg, cool. Ganapathy, good morning. So we're still a few minutes early. I'm just killing time. I'm trying to get better at this live stream thing. Every time I feel like I learn something new. I've got these low latency settings, so things should feel a little more natural, and trying to up my game with my lighting so it's a little bit better looking, a little bit better sounding audio, hopefully. And the other thing is being on time. That's kind of a big part of what we're going to be talking about today in the live stream. So I thought it'd be good to try to log in about 5 minutes early each time, hang out with you guys. Oh, a coffee at 12 a.m. Yikes, that's late. I guess it's early if you work through the night, though. Am I still going to design skills in Austin? Whenever it happens, I will. That had to be put on hold, as you probably know, due to pandemic-related items. I know that they're still hoping to have the event, but when and exactly it's going to happen is yet to be seen. But stay tuned. I absolutely want to go, and I absolutely want to meet as many people as possible. That would be a lot of fun. Let's see, Keyshot. This is not a live Keyshot demo. This is about how to manage your time as a freelancer. Sorry. Maybe do some live stream Keyshot webinar type stuff in the future if you guys are interested, but I find that when I do real-time stuff like that, they're not as condensed and they can take a long time to do. I don't want to lose people's interest, so... Could Keyshot replace product photography? Sure, it does in a lot of cases. It just depends on what you need, you know? Like taking photos of like large equipment like CNC machines or automobiles and stuff, that's hard and it's expensive. So in a lot of times we do use rendering instead of photos for things like that. What's up? Rashank from India. Hey. We got Jorge or George. Sorry, I'm not sure how you like your name said, from Spain. We've got Mock from Iran. That's cool. Okay, so we're 9:01 right on the dot. I'm gonna give it a couple minutes since people are still joining the live stream. We'll give it just a couple minutes, make sure everyone's able to make it, and then we'll kick things off. Do I use any software for rendering other than Keyshot? So I've tried a couple other rendering softwares, but I don't actually currently use anything other than Keyshot for my client work. So anything that I'm doing for a client or customer who's paying me, I know my software. Keyshot really well, so I have to take out all the risk when I'm doing work for them. So I do use Keyshot. I've played around with Blender, Cycles and Eevee. I'm trying to think if I've used. I haven't really used anything else. I mean, I know there's a lot of great render engines out there, but at the end of the day, it comes down to time. I don't have time to learn new software always, so it's a little bit tough. But cool. Looks like we have a solid crew here in the live stream. Gleb. Sorry, a little bit confusing. Not sure what you mean by that. Do I use Blender for work as a freelancer? I do sometimes when I need to for like UV prep. Not a lot. I'd like to use it more. It's a great, powerful tool, and there's a lot to like about it. But when doing freelance work, I need to take out all the risk and all the unexpected factors that I can just to protect my ability to deliver a good asset and a final files to my clients. So I don't use Blender a lot for freelance work yet. Like I said, I'd like to, but I need to carve out more time to dive deeper in it. How do we deal with explaining CGI? It's pretty simple, I think. I mean, I tell people a lot of commercials they see are not photos or videos. They're actually done on the computer. I say that they're made using a 3D model and then special software to simulate photography. But it gives you greater creative control over the process, and it saves a lot of companies money. So I think it's pretty easy to explain it. You just have to drop the lingo. Don't use slang that is industry standard, so that way people don't get confused, maybe. Which 3D modeling software am I most comfortable with? Fusion 360 by a far shot. Daniel says, time management, I'm late. No, it's okay. We're given, I think what I'm gonna do is kick things off 5 minutes after the live stream starts every time. That way people have time to filter in. Because I know a lot of people have updates on Instagram and on their YouTube and everything. And once you get a push notification, it takes you a few minutes to get actually to the live stream. So I like, I don't want to kick things off too early. Octane versus Keyshot. Man, I've not used Octane. I know it's a cool software, but if I used Cinema 4D, like for real, I would probably use Octane. Actually, I'd probably use Redshift, but I can't compare Octane and Keyshot because I haven't used Octane really. Sorry. When did I start modeling? In college. Hello from Morocco. What's up? Question about, do I follow Chris from the future? Yeah. I appreciate it, man. Chris is a big inspiration. I wish I could meet him. I know he's in LA. I haven't done any of his courses or anything, but yeah, man, he's a heavy hitter for sure. I love what the future does. Kind of services I provide. Rendering, still images, and animation. That's pretty much it. Product visualization is what we call that. Okay, we are 5 minutes after. Thank you guys who have been patient, who've already been on the live stream for a little bit. We're gonna get things kicked off. And today we're talking about time management. And this is a really cool one. I started making my notes for this last night, and it turns out there's a lot more I wanted to dig into here than I initially thought. So there's a lot I have to share with this. And if there's one thing, if I'm gonna toot my horn here for a second and actually say that I'm decent at something, this is one of my stronger suits personally. I'm not the most creative person out there. I'm not the best 3D modeler. I'm not the best rendering guy. I'm not the best photographer. There's a lot of things that I'm not the best at, but out of all my skills, time management is something I'm quite good at, and project management. And it's unlocked a lot of things for me in my life, so I'm hoping to share what I've learned works and give you guys some tips to help improve. And yeah, we'll see where this goes. So the first thing I have to say is that time management is a myth. What I mean by that is everyone has 24 hours in the day, right? We all have the same amount of time, and time goes on at the same rate. Meaning you're not gonna have like a faster day or a slower day. Time is in control, and you're just kind of sitting there in the passenger seat. You can't manage time. It's not up to you. Time is independent of your control. So this sounds like a bait and switch a little bit. Time management is what we came here for, and I am gonna, but I think what you're really asking for is, how do I get more things done? And how do I get more tactical about how I spend my time to maximize the benefits and the rewards of what I am doing, of my actions? So that's what we're gonna talk about. The things that we can manage instead of time are tasks and energy. And we're going to talk about managing tasks and energy and how that actually translates into what you accomplish in your own professional life and personal life, I guess. So I want to mention two scenarios, two hypothetical characters. The first one we have is called Late Larry. Late Larry is always behind. He's always running late. He's rushing. He's forgetting things because he's in a hurry. He's always showing up to appointments 5 minutes late. His friends always know that he's late, so they usually tell him the event's going to start earlier than it does. He's always pushing up against deadlines. Sometimes he's missing deadlines. Sometimes he's sacrificing sleep because all of a sudden it gets later and the time just gets away from him, and then he ends up staying up through the night to get something done. But then eventually he crashes and he sleeps in and he can't get up to his next appointment. And it's a vicious cycle that keeps going on and on. So this Late Larry character is something that we all have a little bit of that inside of us, right? And then there's this other character. I'm going to call him Early Ed. And Early Ed is always early. In fact, he has this little mantra. If you're early, you're on time. And if you're on time, you're late. And what that means is there's only one acceptable outcome of an appointment, and that is to be the first one there or be there before you agreed to meet. He never misses a deadline, so he has this legendary reputation. No one hesitates when giving him work or asking him to do something or depending on him for something. He's always well rested, so he has the energy to react when unexpected things happen. So if all of a sudden he has a long day or an extra thing he has to do, he's got the energy because he rested up. And he's always up on time. He always knows what to do next if there's a project. He always seems to be one step ahead of the game. And he has to-do lists that he makes, and he makes sure he smashes them every single day. So when we take a look at this Late Larry and Early Ed, who are obviously on different ends of the spectrum, we all have a little bit of both of them in us. Sometimes we're more of an Early Ed, sometimes we're more of a Late Larry. But what are the major differences between these two hypothetical characters? One of them is going to be seen as quite successful professionally, and the other one is going to be seen as a bit of a failure professionally. And so what are these big differences? And there are a number of tactics, I think, that we're going to go into to talk about how these two characters kind of manage their lives differently. So we're going to talk about energy management, task management, prioritization, and focus. And those four sort of things are going to be what makes Late Larry and Early Ed different from each other. So let's start off talking about energy management. What does that even mean? So when we're talking about energy management, we're talking about managing your personal energy levels, your physical and mental and emotional energy levels. Now, it's pretty commonly understood that we need energy to do our best work. And I grew up with friends whose parents were psychologists, and they explained that in creative work, the first thing that gets sacrificed when you're not well rested is your creative ability to think, right? So science, as well as a bunch of other case studies, back up the fact that we do need to be well rested to do our best, most creative work. And in order to do this, we also want to stay active. What that does is that keeps our energy high. And it may sound counterintuitive. You might be like, oh, well, if I go do a workout, I'm tired afterward. Well, not exactly the case. There's different chemical things that happen in your body where endorphins and dopamine gets released and everything, and your blood gets pumping. And yes, your body may feel a little bit tired at the end of the day, but here's the interesting thing. If you're tired by the end of the day, you're going to sleep better, you'll get better recovery, and then you'll wake up better rested. You will also have higher levels of energy after your workout throughout the day. So I'm saying, of course, first off, we all need to get enough sleep. I will also say that you should get enough sleep, find out what is enough for you, typically between 7 and 8 hours for most people. And then don't assume that more sleep is always better. If you sleep for, say, 10 hours, you're actually going to get lethargic because of oversleeping. It's like being sleep drunk. I forget what they call it, but you can actually lose energy by not using your body physically, by sleeping too much. So you want to find out just as much sleep as you need, and then try not to get too much more or too much less than that. And then the other big interesting thing is I'm going to talk about eating well is a good way to manage your energy levels throughout the day. So if you're constantly going on highs and lows, like peaks and valleys between high energy, low energy, consider your diet. You might be taking in too much caffeine at certain times of the day. You might be eating too much sugary foods. You might be eating fatty foods, which are going to make you sleepy and sluggish. And if your diet's real off, if you're eating and drinking things that make your energy fluctuate drastically, it's going to be really hard for you to have a high focused, productive day. And then lastly, I'll talk about a schedule. You want to be consistent. If you can, try to have a schedule every day. Try not to have a weekend that's too different than your weekdays. I get up at 5:30 every single day, and by having that consistent time that I wake up, it becomes automatic. But it also means that when you have routines, you train your body to do things automatically. So if you want to be efficient with your time, you want to have a routine and make few decisions and have your body automatically respond when it's time to start getting busy. So lastly, I think it's most important to say you do your most important work when your energy is the highest. For most people, it's going to be after they wake up. It's going to be early. And I know a lot of people say, yeah, I'm not a morning person. Maybe. A lot of that comes down to your mentality and what you actually think. But I will tell you that almost everybody, your highest energy and your most focused thoughts are going to be earlier in the day before you've reached decision fatigue, which happens at the end of the day. Why do you think most people don't get projects done after they come home from work? They're already too exhausted. They've made too many decisions. They've spent that energy. It's better to do it in the morning. Carve out an hour or two in the morning for yourself before family, before anyone wakes up, before checking email, before any work happens. And that is one of the big weapons, secret weapons to getting more things done, okay? So that's the first thing, is energy management. I know this sounds like whoa, what is he talking about? Like, this is probably not what you had in mind when I was talking about how to manage your time, but we're actually going to get more into what, the typical time management stuff next, okay? We're going to talk about task management next. But the point being, energy management, if we're talking back to that early Ed and late Larry, early Ed is always going to have an even-keeled energy. He's going to be getting enough sleep. That's what allows him to get through the day properly. Whereas late Larry is going to be, he's always going to be kind of running behind, and his energy's going like this. He's drinking Red Bulls at 3 a.m. to get through a project, but then he's crashing and he's feeling like crap, and he's practically hung over the next day, and he can't recover as well. So just think about that. The next thing that we're going to get into task management, like I said. So the first thing I want to talk about in task management is deconstruction. So task management is when somebody or you have something to do specifically, and then you're going to make decisions along the way to make sure that you get the thing done the way it needs to be done by when it needs to be done. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is deconstruction, and that means you look at everything that needs to be done, you start with the end goal, and then you work backward. You deconstruct the steps you're going to take to get there. So for example, if I'm going to do a job where I have to deliver 25 renderings, I'm going to start with the deliverable, 25 renderings, and the date on the calendar that they're due. And then I'm going to go back and say, okay, how long do I need to do a revision? Let's say maybe it only takes me 1 day, but I know the client might take 2 or 3 days to get back to me. So I'll add those up and say, okay, 4 days for one revision. So I put a mark on the calendar, and that's where the last draft Rev 2 goes. And then I do that again for the first revision. Okay, so now I've got an 8-day buffer. That's how long it might take to go from final draft, the first submission to the next draft to the final delivery. And then maybe I know I'm gonna have to have a a phase where I do the scene setup. Maybe I'm gonna have to do a phase where I do the research. Maybe there's a phase for CAD or modeling or something. So you have all these phases that you're gonna break your project into, and you work with a calendar, and you start from the very end and you work your way back to the beginning. And that's called deconstruction. So knowing how to properly deconstruct a task will go a long way. Other people may fly by the seat of their pants going forward and not thinking about the roadmap of how they're going to get there. And that's setting yourself up for failure. Okay, the next one is planning. So before a project begins, I spend a lot of time planning. It's the old, there's an old saying that says something like, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe. And that's a metaphor for get prepared, actually plan things out, because a little bit of planning can save you many hours down the road. For example, if I have spent 3 hours planning out process and ways to shortcut or eliminate certain steps from the project, I might save myself 10, 15, 20 hours as opposed to just going in there blind, running into a challenge and then realizing, oh crap, I have to backpedal and figure out how to get out of this. And that's true. I have run into that myself. So planning is very important. Make sure you leave time in your project budget for planning. I typically charge for a phase of project planning and management before the whole project begins, because I have to spend time thinking about that, and you have to be compensated for that. So another important skill is time estimation. And this is kind of weird again. I give my fiance a hard time because she's famous for being like, oh yeah, I need 5 minutes, but like 5 minutes becomes the default answer, even if it's 30 minutes, right? And so we're all pretty good at judging distance. We get pretty good at that, 5 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet, a yard, a mile, whatever. But the problem is time seems to be hard for some people to estimate. And you want to start paying attention to how long does it actually take you to get ready in the morning? Like actually time it. How long does it take you to commute to work? How long does it take to take a shower? How long do you spend eating? And the reason it's important to know these stats is because if you are truly able to know how long it takes you to do a task, and you get better at estimating that, the better you know how long it actually takes you to do something, the better you get at estimating how long it will take you to do something in the future. So you need to pay attention and actually time yourself on certain tasks, because if you know how long it'll take, you can properly budget and you can properly estimate how long something will take you. You have to have a metric to use for how long a task will take. And you don't want to be falsely optimistic. A lot of people, for some reason subconsciously, if we think something will take us an hour, our ego says we'll get it done in 45 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever. We take pride in doing things quickly for some reason, especially with clients. They're like, how long will this take? You're like, oh, get it done in a day. And you're like, wow, I sound like a badass saying I'll get it done in a day. Problem is, if you really think you'll get it done in a day, there's a good chance it's going to take a day and a half or even 2 days. And now you've all of a sudden set yourself up to look bad if you can't actually deliver it on that day. So the point is, don't be falsely optimistic. No one's handing out brownie points for you getting things done quicker. Especially if you are really pushing yourself and risking not being able to hit a deadline. So the next thing is be cautiously optimistic. Or, sorry, I said don't be falsely optimistic, be falsely realistic. Cautiously realistic. Man, I am messing up my words here. So cautiously realistic, what I mean by that is start by saying, okay, how long do I really think it'll take? And then be cautious about it. Add an extra 30%. Or, if you think it's going to take you a day, tell the client it's going to take you 2 days. Or write down on your calendar, budget twice the amount of time you need. Now, I'm not saying take a project that you think will take 2 weeks and then tell the client it'll take 4 weeks. That the longer the project gets, you can't just start doubling and tripling how long it's going to take. But individual tasks, if you think something's going to take you 5 hours, maybe budget 10 hours for it, because we all run into unexpected things. And sometimes when we get into the zone, that like creative flow state, time just goes like that. And we may be not as good at judging how much time is going by when we're really sucked into a project. So the next little tip for task management, this is going to seem silly, but in this day and age where everything is digital, I use a planner. This is the best planner in the world that you can buy. This is the Moleskine. It's a hardcover. It's an extra large size, and I really like it because it allows me, each vertical column is a day, and I'm able to write out all my tasks with check boxes and cross them out. And if you look, I literally go through every single day, and then between each week, they have like pages of blank areas where you can write stuff out. There's a lot of other cool stuff in this planner, but the reason this is so good is it stays on my desk, and it is a way to empty the brain and get it out on paper so the brain can focus on doing what it needs to do. And specifically this plan, I've tried tons of planners. I've been buying these ones for the past 5 or 6 years, and I swear by them. And they're hard to come by. They sell out. In fact, on Amazon right now, I put one in my cart yesterday because for 2021, this planner, there's like 10 more of them left on Amazon. They're about to sell out. So it's the XL Pro, something like that. I'll link it in the description. I think it's there. But anyway, point being that I rely on this planner for so much, and I think that it's really important to, even when we have a lot of digital tools, get tangible with things we can write down and modify and write, and cross things out and everything like that. So the point being is I really do rely on a planner because it allows you to take notes and work with things on, the paper. I'm hitting that one to death, I know, but I really love these planners. So if you cop one before they're gone, they're really cool. Okay, so the last one on task management is account for limiting factors outside of your control. So if you're new to the world of business, or if you are a new freelancer, or perhaps someone who's about to graduate from college, you're going to find pretty quickly that things in the business world happen at a snail's pace. Unless you're working for a rare company or in a rare industry where things happen quickly, typically things happen slower than you imagine. So when you get a task, you execute it right away, and then you turn it around and hand it back to whoever asked you to do it. In the business world, it doesn't always happen like that because there are a lot of people, stakeholders and shareholders who need to approve stuff and review stuff, and things go through revisions, and then people take weekends, and people leave early, and they have doctor's appointments. So when you expect someone at a business, whether it's your client or someone you're working with, to react or respond to something and then get it done or give you feedback right away, it's not going to happen. You're going to learn that days go by without you hearing from them, even with good clients. And that's just because you and your project is not their sole focus. They have other things to do. And as you get further in your career, you're going to have other things to do. And until you're on that side of the fence, you're not going to understand that some people need more time to get back to you. So account for limiting factors that you can't control, like other people's schedules. So if you say, okay, I'm going to hand over a draft on Monday, then I'll be able to do the next version on Tuesday. Well, you're assuming that for some reason, your client's going to take this thing, review it, share it with anyone else who has to provide input. They're going to type it up, then they're going to give it back to you. They're not going to put the brakes on just so they can, come at every beck and call that you have. So you need to give an extra day or two for them to do that. And your entire project, if it's going to be a 5 or 6 week project, may really need to become an 8-week project because of things like weekends and holidays and vacations and slow turnaround and meetings and reviews and all that stuff. So for task management, we have a lot of stuff here. Sorry, I'm going to pause for a second. If you guys want, let me know. Maybe I'll make show notes or blog posts available with all the stuff I'm saying, because I realize you could never take notes on this. So anyway, if you guys think this would be helpful, type in the chat. I'll create a spot on my website where you can get show notes or task notes for all these, maybe even just the video, I don't know. Anyway, so for task management, lots of stuff. Deconstruction, planning, time estimation. Don't be falsely optimistic, be cautiously realistic, use a planner, and account for limiting factors, okay? So with all that task management stuff, early Ed is going to, he's the king at this. He knows how to do all these. He actually implements these things, whereas late Larry doesn't do these things. He just dives in head first and just plows ahead and assumes that things will get done. He doesn't worry about where he's going. He doesn't check in and look at the calendar. He just knows that he needs to get things done. And unfortunately, because he's not planning, he's not deconstructing, he's going to run into roadblocks that are just going to set him up for failure. So the next thing I want to talk about is prioritization. So once we have our task managed, deconstructed, planned out, where does prioritization come in here? And prioritization is a more granular level of things. It means like, how do I actually decide between this versus this task? Because we start by making a list of tasks, we have our bullet list, but how do we actually choose which ones to do when or first? And that's what priority is all about. Now, an interesting thing is, if you actually look at the word itself, the word priority, it actually, if you look at its root, it means singular most important thing. When people say they have priorities, plural, it's actually an improper use of the word. We cannot have priorities. It's an oxymoron. You prioritize one item, and that one thing is the most important. So I want you to think about that, because when you prioritize, you're going to make sure that you identify the most important thing, and then everything else takes the backseat. So there's this old kind of graph. There's 4 sectors. If you've read any self-improvement or personal management books, you'll see these. There's like a graph where it's like urgent versus important. So one of those sectors will say like important and urgent. The next one's going to be urgent, unimportant, and then it's going to be important, urgent, or whatever. It's basically comparing those 4 scenarios. When something is urgent, it must be done quickly, meaning there's an actual deadline attached to it. When something is important, it means if you don't do it, there will be consequences for it. Now, sometimes we get things that are urgent, meaning they have to happen now, but they are not important. And sometimes we get things that are important, but they're not urgent, meaning, yes, we have to do them, because if we don't, something bad will happen, but they don't have to happen right away. So let's talk about filing your taxes. It is important, but as long as you have a few weeks till the deadline, they're not urgent. They don't need to happen right away. So something that is urgent and also important is going to become the priority over everything else, because there are consequences if you don't get it done, but it also is timely, meaning if it doesn't happen by this date, then there's a big issue. So your client's deadline, if they need to launch a product and you get something to them after that deadline, that was both urgent and important, and you would be in big trouble if you did that. So you can make this sort of diagram or list and decide what is both important and urgent, and make sure that you prioritize those tasks. Because there's a lot of things that are important, but once you are forced to answer that question, you learn that they're not urgent, meaning they can go on the back burner for a little while. And you should always prioritize that important, urgent item. The next is, of course, make those lists. Again, I talked about the planner. That's what I like to use. You can use the Notes app, you can use Evernote, you can use whatever you want, but make lists, because this is not a computer. And I found that the more things I try to keep in my head, the more stressed I get, the more scatterbrained I get, and the less I'm able to focus on the actual task I'm doing. Because there's this thing in the back of my head going, okay, you're juggling plates or balls or whatever you want to think about. There's things happening and you can't afford to drop them. So they stay in the back of your head, consuming energy. But as you're not a computer, you can't efficiently operate like that. So empty your brain, put it into a list, and then focus on the one task that you're doing. So that's use your priorities. Okay, so that's prioritization. The next thing I want to talk about, before I go on, again, late Larry, early Ed. Early Ed is great at prioritizing. He makes sure that he starts his day by doing the most important task first, because if something comes up, and things will come up, at least he started his day getting the worst or the hardest thing out of the way. There's a good book called Eat That Frog that talks about this. There's a lot of good books. I'm going to mention a few more. And then David Allen's Getting Things Done. That's another classic that's all about making lists and prioritizing and stuff. Anyway, late Larry, of course, sucks at prioritizing. And that's one of his biggest issues, is he chooses to do things that are important but not urgent. And what that does is it forces him, once he gets the important things done that aren't urgent, he gets to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. and he realizes he still hasn't done the thing that's actually due in the morning. So he stays up all night screwing himself because he didn't get the urgent thing done earlier. And so it's simply like you'll get all the same things done, but he should have done the ones that were urgent first and saved the ones that were less urgent for later. Okay? So prioritization is huge. Now, focus is one of the other topics that a lot of people struggle with. I'm not unique here. I also struggle with this. Sorry, quick break. So with focus, we're talking about the ability, sorry, inhaled my coffee. With focus, we're talking about the ability to not lose track of what we're doing in the moment. Focus is singular. It means not multitasking. So let's actually talk about multitasking. It's a myth, and I don't think, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this. It's pretty popular. Multitasking used to be popular in the 50s, 60s, 70s, like do two things at once, be more productive, whatever. It's fallen out of fashion, and most people now know that multitasking is not a good thing and is not a real thing. There's a limited ability for us to do multiple things at once. Computers are good at doing multiple things at once. We are not. There's parts of our brain that can only process certain types of information at a time. And if we are trying to, say, write a paper or a blog post while listening to music with lyrics or an audiobook, it is impossible. One of those two tasks are not going to be done to the best of your ability because your brain can only do one. So it's actually going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth really, really quickly. And every time it switches, it's focused from one thing to another. It's actually dropping information or missing information from the other task. So it can't actually do both things at once. Now, interestingly enough, you're like, hold on a second, I listen to music and work all the time. Right, I hear you, so do I. I actually listen to audiobooks because I don't have time to read, but I only listen to anything with lyrics or words in it that I have to hear when I'm doing a task that doesn't require me to process language. So for example, I can light and render a scene or 3D model something while listening to an audiobook. I cannot, however, listen to an audiobook and write a proposal for a client or a blog post. So you hear what I'm saying with that. You need to make sure that you are not trying to multitask when you shouldn't be. The other big thing is task switching. So even when you are going from project to project, let's say you're going to do this project for 30 minutes, then this project for 30 minutes, then this project for 30 minutes. When you go from project to project, there's something called task switching. And what that does is it requires your brain to get fully immersed and committed into the project at that time. What it means is you actually have to jettison some of the stuff you were thinking about and working on and focused on, and then dive into an entirely different topic. And when you do that, it actually takes 5, 10, sometimes 15 minutes to actually effectively task switch. And that is something that few people account for. So even if you have a big to-do list, you're better off batching similar activities so you're not actually task switching the types of work that you're doing, creative versus analytical, whatever. You don't want to switch between many, many tasks. You want to do chunks of similar tasks together. So anyway, that's my thought there. Multitasking is a myth. Try not to do it. Now, there's another interesting thing on focus, and it is called deep work. And it's the name of a book by Cal Newport, who's brilliant. I think he's one of my favorite authors. Younger guy, really, really brilliant professor. He's accomplished a lot, and his studies on deep work are very interesting. He defines deep work by being difficult work that I'm gonna mutilate his definition of it, but deep work is difficult work that requires a high level of energy and attention to pull off, if that makes sense. So deep work might be writing a book. It could be coming up with your next design. It could be 3D modeling something that is really difficult to 3D model. It could be trying to create your best image ever in rendering, or it could be writing a song. It could be whatever. The point is, deep work is meaningful work that moves you forward in the job or the passion that you do. And deep work means work where your brain is fully committed to that task and it's not being distracted by anything else. So we've all been in that state of shallow work where we get notifications from our phone, we're responding to emails, we're answering the door from a package delivery, your significant other's asking you for a question from across the room, your dog's interrupting you, whatever it is. That's shallow work because you're doing whatever you're supposed to do, but every other minute you're getting interrupted by something else. And the net outcome is less good work and a lot less progress on that project. So you need to find ways to do deep work. And there's a whole book written on it, like I said, called Deep Work, which I absolutely love. I've listened to it 2 or 3 times. Super inspiring, super motivating. And that's linked up in this video description as well, I think. So a little case study. When I first heard about deep work, he talks about how a lot of people don't focus and how they don't get a lot of work done. And I did this little study, undercover study at a job I used to work at when I actually worked in an office. This is quite a few years ago. And I actually started timing on a stopwatch how much time, how many hours I actually worked throughout the day. So I'd hit the stopwatch and I'd start working with my headphones on so no one could come in and interrupt me. And I actually worked quickly. And then if somebody came to interrupt me, or if I took a break from work, I stopped the stopwatch and I walked away and I came back. And I did this over the course of the first time, let me say the first day I did, I was surprised. I did less than 2 hours of productive work, honestly. There was that much meetings, there was that much water cooler banter, there was that much time wasted making coffees in the break room, there was that much time taking break. We used to go on bike rides, just walk in the halls, asking somebody if they knew where something was. Like, it was wasted time, basically. And I found that a lot of my coworkers were in the same position where they found ways to be at work, but they didn't actually get as much work done. So I did more and more of it over the next few weeks. And I pushed myself to actually get more than 6 hours of work done on a given work day on average. And all of a sudden I was like 3 weeks ahead in my work. I was going to my manager being like, I don't know what to do. I've done everything. What do I do? What do I do? And he's like, how? And I'm like, I just put on my headphones and ignore everybody. And then I started taking some days off or working from home because I didn't have as much to do. So point being, deep work is very, very interesting. And if you read it or listen to it, it'll actually challenge the way you work and you will find ways to get more done in less time. And it's really cool. Anyway, I'll get off that soapbox. So focus is really, really important. And another book that Cal Newport wrote is Digital Minimalism. It's a mouthful. As you can expect, it's a whole lot about the benefits that you can get from getting rid of your digital distractions. And a lot of it stems from, of course, social media. But what it actually does is it takes a look at the long-term effects on the brain of those people who are constantly being distracted by digital devices. And if you go through it, you will feel compelled to take what's called a digital detox, and you'll take a step back and turn off your devices for like a month or so, or get off certain social media platforms for a bit. And what'll happen is first, it's going to be incredibly hard. You're going to find out that you are addicted to your social media. And then once you get through that hard phase where you're grabbing your phone every 25 minutes, you're going to learn. Once you've broken that habit and you forget about it, you'll go a whole day. Like, it's so cool, and you go a whole day without realizing, oh, I didn't even look at my phone. I didn't get on Instagram. I didn't get on Facebook. I didn't, whatever it is. And the point is, once you start doing that, you free up this mental and emotional energy and bandwidth and creative energy to do the meaningful work. So again, both of those books are highly recommended. Again, links below, I think. Focus is something that late Larry is not good at. He gets distracted and all of a sudden time slips away, and then, oh crap, he's staying up all night to do a project. Whereas early Ed, of course, he is not only good at focusing, he knows what tasks to do and he doesn't get distracted. Okay, so we're a little ahead of schedule. Look at that, we're not even at 10 a.m. So what I'm going to do is basically summarize this, and then I'm going to get to the comments, and we can just hang out. And if you guys have to peace out, we'll see you later. If you guys have questions, pop them in the chat. I'll get to them. But really, the summary of all this is what tools can I recommend, books and stuff. I've mentioned them. We've got the Moleskine Pro Planner size, I think it's extra large or something. That's linked up below. The One Thing. The One Thing is a book I did not talk about. That is by, I think, Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, I think. And it's about how do you, if you really struggle with identifying the one thing you should be working on or the one thing you should be doing, it's a great book for that. It actually walks you, and again, it doesn't need to be as long as it is. It's a bit, I don't know, there's a lot of examples, so you might get sick of that. But the point is, it's a good book because it helps you answer the question, what is the one thing I could do that would make everything else easier, or not even, how do you say it? What's the one thing I can do now to eliminate other tasks or make other tasks easier? And so if you always approach things like that, you're not only doing the right thing in the moment, you're actually taking things off your plate from the future. It's actually pretty cool. So The One Thing is a good book, Deep Work, Digital Minimalism, and then the rest of, anything else that you guys come up with. But those are the ones that I suggest. Again, I'm a big books guy, but I listen to them. I listen to them when I'm on hikes, walks. Here's another thing that isn't on my list. I'm going to improv here. Taking walks. I know you've probably heard this too, but taking walks is pretty important. It goes back to that energy management and exercise, but I find that when I'm taking walks, my brain is working on problems subconsciously, and I have more epiphanies and more breakthroughs when I'm walking or showering or doing the dishes. Basically a task that requires no conscious thought, and that allows your brain to focus on tasks in a different way. And I find that, again, when it comes to getting things done or time management or task management, you're actually going to have better breakthroughs when doing some of those subconscious activities as well. Mulling on things and being like, oh, if I just did this way, I could eliminate this step over here, and that means I might claim 25 minutes every day, whatever it is. So anyway, my summary for time management is try not to think about it as time management, but think about it as energy management. So how do we have as much energy as we can, consistent energy, do the tasks that are when we have the most energy, do our most important work. Think about task management like deconstruction, planning, be realistic with how long things are going to take, and then account for the unexpected, so add more time to your project. Prioritize, so figure out what you need to do when, and make sure you do that thing first. And then lastly, learn how to focus. And this is one that takes a lot of practice. When we have so much technology vying for our attention, it is really hard to focus. But I can guarantee you it's something you can work on as an adult, and you will learn. There's almost this like sacred samurai mastery sort of thing that can happen when you become somebody who can focus. You can actually get into what's called that flow state almost automatically by establishing a routine. It's really, really cool. And then tools and books, again, use planners, and there's a few books linked up that go into these topics in depth. David Allen's Getting Things Done too. That's the other one I recommend. But I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, actually I'm gonna leave that for the end. Let me look at the comments, man. Thanks for everyone who sat through all this. Again, I am blown away that you guys, so many people are choosing to spend your Saturdays here with me. It means a lot, and I hope to deliver as much value as I can while you guys are here. So thank you, thank you. Questions. Can I explain the kind of service? Oh, sorry, I read that earlier. How do I manage to not be distracted when I work at home? That's a great question, by Mock. I'm fortunate enough to live in an apartment where we have a spare bedroom. My spare bedroom is my office. This is the largest room in our entire apartment, and God bless my fiance, she let me take over the biggest room for my office. And actually, it's because our neighbors have noisy kids. They were screaming, keeping us up at night, and their room is right over there. So we moved into the room over there, and this became my office. and it has a door that shuts. So that's the answer to your question, Mock. How do I manage to not be distracted when I'm at home? I close the door and no one's allowed to interrupt me when I'm here. The other thing is I have a puppy that's a high energy puppy. He's on the floor sleeping behind me. If you have one of these high maintenance dogs, I learned pretty early on, dogs learn to have certain behavior in certain places. This guy bounces off the walls everywhere except for this room. He's been trained that when we're in here, it's work time. He sleeps or he naps behind me or on the floor, allowing me to focus. And that took quite a while to teach him, but that's important. And then, of course, support from your family. The other big thing is turning off notifications and not allowing yourself to do chores throughout the day. Do home chores on the weekend if possible, or evenings. Don't let yourself do chores during the day when you should be working. That's the hardest one for me. Awesome. So awesome. Nice comment from MD Manarul from Bangladesh. Thank you very much. We've got Pleb says hello from Germany. Awesome. We've got Edwin. Why are 33 people watching and only 15 likes? I don't know, man. But everyone else, if you're watching, you can pop a like in there. I wouldn't mind that. That would be awesome. Oh, Hudson says, hey, Will, how can I manage my enthusiasm every day? That is a tough one. Good question there. Enthusiasm. This is almost like creative block. A lot of people struggle with but this is different. This is all about how do I stay interested in what I'm doing? And that is a very personal question that is very hard for me to answer. I will tell you the truth. There are days that suck for me. I have bad days. I try not to inundate people with me complaining because I don't see a lot of value in that. But I have days that don't go well. And I talk a lot with my fiance about that. There are these days where like I can just tell her, I'm like, she's like, hey, how's your day? I'm like, oh, it's just one of those days. Like I'll get into a funk for 2 or 3 days where I just truly question what I'm doing and I don't want to do it and I hate everything. But I know myself, and if I just give it a little more time, like it just goes away. And then I'm back feeling good for like another few weeks. So there are times where I'm not enthusiastic or something hard happens or bad happens. And you have to understand, if you kind of go to work like on a mission, like you really have to have, first of all, I'd say when you're not feeling enthusiastic for what you do, first of all, consider how lucky you are. Consider how fortunate you are to be in the position to do something creative if that's what you're doing. Most people would kill to do that, okay? There are people who truly hate their job, and if you're in a position to make some sort of decisions about what you do, or if your work benefits somebody else other than just making them money, take meaning from that. You should have a purpose and you should have a goal. That's another thing. You know what? Let's talk about it. There's a good book by, Simon, no, what is his name? It's killing me. I feel really, really bad. Start With Why by Simon Sinek is a huge inspiration of mine. And it goes into, most people know what they do, but few people know why they do it. And if you don't know your why, you can't feel very fulfilled about what you do. And most people who do great work, there's a greater purpose behind their work, a sense of fulfillment. That is the why. And if their work is bigger than themselves, then it's easier to stay enthusiastic about what you do. Obviously, there's a lot to uncover here. I could hold this comment for another topic and do a deep dive on the meaning behind your work, doing meaningful work. In fact, I'll write that down. Look at that. I just used my planner. See? Taking notes. Okay. All right. I have to move on. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Really appreciate it. Art Martins, what's up, man? What do you do when you become a timer freak? Oh, gosh. That's funny. Here's the thing. It might be surprising to find that, like, I'm not a big fan of tracking my time because what it does. So first of all, I don't like charging hourly because then you're just constantly watching a timer. It can cause stress and anxiety. I think it's good to occasionally time things to find out how long they take. But here's the good thing. If you are always, if you're a timer freak, then maybe pride yourself on being as efficient as possible. It becomes a game. Like how much more wickedly effective can you be with your time if you're always, using a timer. I also like like when you are paying attention to your time, I find myself the adrenaline that comes from racing the clock actually forces me into a flow state where I can actually just like, again, I don't do drugs, but I feel like I'm on drugs because like nothing in the world is happening around. I'm focused on my work and I'm like working like a madman. And sometimes it's fun, and I think if you can leverage something like racing the clock to get you into that state, then hey, there's a benefit. Let's see. 2x2 grid, important and urgent and not important, important and not urgent, neither. Yes. Thank you, Edwin. You know what I'm talking about. I totally messed that one up when I was trying to remember it. Sorry. Sketching while listening. Cool, man. Deep Work is a very good book. Yep, I love it. Highly recommend this book. Essentialism, Disciplined Pursuit of Less. Yes, that's Greg McEwen, if I've got that right, Hudson. Good suggestion. I remember that. Alexander Selig. This is incredible. Oh, sorry, incredibly helpful. See, I'm fading here. I just started putting my phone in a different part of my room while working, started standing up to get it, and then realized that I had no reason to. Yes, that is huge. I started putting my phone face down. That's like the cheaper cop-out version of what you said. Putting it in another room is really good. And I actually learned this. My parents, who are not super high-tech people, they have a charging station for their phones in the I grew up in the Midwest. They call it a breezeway. It's like a mud room. It's like this room that's by the garage. Their bedroom is on the other side of the house. So they don't sleep with their phone. Their phones are never in the room with them. And before they go to bed, they plug them in on one side of the house. They go to sleep in the other. And then they go in the morning to grab their phone with their coffee. I'm like, you know what? They may be old compared to me, and old-fashioned in some senses, but I really like that because it forces that discipline so you don't become a slave to this terrible thing. So anyway, learning from other people's habits is cool too. So if I turn to the black and white mode on your phone, it helps a bit to put it away. That's interesting too. Wow. I didn't even know about that. That's cool. Rob Hartwell, hey, great stuff. For someone who has quite a strong social media profile on YouTube, have you got any tips on how to detract from Instagram and YouTube? I think what you mean is just like not be spending too much time on it. That's a tough one. And I struggle to, so I'm a big like kind of anti-social media guy, but you're right. I do put a lot of time into it. So we don't own a television in our house. So I am guilty. We are guilty for watching a lot of YouTube, but I try not to. So here's one of the things. I'm working on computers that are owned by my business for work, and I try my very best to make sure that I delineate between personal work and professional work. Professional work should not be time, and the hardware and everything should not be used for consuming stuff just for fun. And the other thing is, like, we have a routine where we watch a couple of YouTube videos while we eat dinner every night. It's just the way we are on our on our dinner table. We open a laptop and we watch one or two or three of our favorite channels, like 10-minute videos each, and then that's all we watch for the day. And then as far as like Instagram and stuff, I actually just I go back and forth. I actually delete the app from my phone, and then literally 2 days later, or even the same day later, if there's something I want to post, I have to put the app back on the phone, open it back up, blah blah blah. But really, removing the app is the best thing that I've actually found, and that's what I like to do the most. Doing a digital detox. So again, I think, sorry, this was Rob's question. That book, Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, if you're at all interested in kind of dialing back your consumption of media, read or listen to that book, and it's phenomenal. It'll give you lots of strategies and ideas of how to do that. Matthias, how do you develop self-motivation? In school-friendly rivalries and seeing how hard everyone was working really pushed me. Now that I've graduated, some of that has mellowed out. Yes, I remember that. Man, I remember staying up through the night working in the studio. And what would happen is, like, I'd be like, dude, I'm done. Like, screw this. It's like 9:30, 10 p.m. And then my buddy would be like, nah, let's just go take a break. We're going to go get a pizza down the road. We're going to come back and we're going to plow through the night. And so having an accountability partner, now that I think about it, it was cool because we all pushed each other in college to just like soldier on and just keep doing more work. And what happened was my best friend in college, he ended up sleeping. So I was an RA and I had a dorm to myself, and he ended up sleeping on my couch toward the end of the year, probably like every other night, because we kind of stuck together because we pushed each other. Because college was hard and things did get hard, we kind of would hold each other accountable and push each other along and take breaks and then be like, okay, now we're going to work hard. And just our work just kind of edged up because that was cool. So I think in real life, you can have these accountability partners. And I belong to a couple of private Slack channels where like-minded people log on to Slack and we all share our work and we push each other, and we it's kind of like a mastermind, but and we're all over the world. You can start a Discord or a Slack or a Skype or a group or anything like that, and you can get people on there who you think will work with you and help push you along and hold each other accountable. And that's a great way to stay self-motivated, I think. The other big thing, again, with self-motivation comes back to Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. You really need to understand what your mission is and why you're doing the things you're doing. And if you understand that, then you're a lot less likely to lose momentum because you have a purpose and a duty to serve other people. And I think that's really important. Alexander says, how do you get more inspired when working from home? Like right now, I feel like without a meeting colleagues and even the commute, I'm a lot less creative and have a lot less aha moments. It's almost the same comment. And it's obvious that that's difficult. I'm going to actually write that as another topic for a future live stream. Motivation from home. So another big one there. I don't know. You can see a couple posters on the wall behind me. I got one from Aaron Draplin. I'm from Michigan. We mean to get the California one. We don't have that one up yet. And then over there, I've got a poster by the great Daniel Simonson. Oh no, did I just say his name wrong? Is it Simon or Simonson? I can't believe I'm dropping that ball. Daniel Simon, sorry, Jesus. So we got his work on the wall. I just got a new zombie print by the guy who has illustrated all the Walking Dead comics. Again, these are inspirations of mine. I'm not a big guy who decorates with a lot of toys and stuff. Like, I know creatives who have a lot of cool artwork and stuff, but I'm slowly trying to build a space that when I get in here, I feel like I'm in my zone. I'm in my, it's the place and time to create. I'm trying really hard to build a space that makes me feel like a legit office where creative work happens and things get done, not just our spare bedroom. A transformation has to happen mentally when I walk into this space. So I don't do certain things in this room that don't feel like work. And it's very important to take breaks and stuff and then come back. So that would be my recommendation, is build a space now that a lot of people are working from home or freelancing or social distancing or quarantining. You really have to find a way to carve out your little slice, even if it's just a hallway in your house. Look, you're creative. There are things that can be done. Find ways to make your space your own and find ways to block out the world around you and take breaks and then come back to your work when you need to. Sweet. So what do we have? Making notes. Awesome. Will Gibbons tips. Awesome. That's funny. Sweet. I legit do the same thing, deleting the app. Yes, I know. I do that all the time. Yeah, it does. And here's the other thing, man, if you really want to make things hard to do, disable Face ID on your phone or whatever you use for your passwords. Make it so you have to put your damn password in every time. That'll really kill you. That'll keep you off the phone for sure. Edwin says, I log out of the app and do not save the sign-in data. Same thing. Look at that. I just said that. Type in the user. Yes, you're right. Absolutely. Good guys. We're all on the same page here. Look at that. Great live again. Awesome. Sweet Art. Take care. Alexander, how do you manage to work in the same room and support each other without interrupting the other person's focus? That's a good question. I imagine you're seeing the computer in the back. So that's actually just a docking station that my fiance uses from time to time. She is a medical well, she's a doctor, but she's finishing her residency. She's in her last year right now. She spends almost all of her time at the hospital, but when she comes home and has to do notes for work, she sometimes sits there and plugs in over there. How do we not interrupt the other person's focus? I don't know, man. And we've done this for a long time. So when my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, when we were in Pennsylvania, she was in medical school. I built a crazy desk setup where I had my desk set up, and then on the other side was her desk setup. So we faced each other, but our computer monitors prevented us from seeing each other. So there was like this like invisible wall. And we would sometimes go there for like 4 hours, almost not talking and just focused and working. And I don't know. I don't have a good answer. It's just, we know that there's consequences if we don't get things done. So we just hunker down and do it. Start with why is good reading. Oh yeah, absolutely. So I have, on my phone, I used to pay for Audible, and I would buy books when I needed them, and they're still, those books are still on my phone, and I still listen to those books from time to time. Now, if you're someone who's tight on money, but you live in the US and you have a library card, there's an app called Libby. Let's see if I can show it to you. Libby. It's a free app. All you do is get a library card from your local library and you put the number in. And if they have any books on file, like audiobooks and stuff, you download them for free for up to 2 weeks, and then you can check them out again. I've been using Libby exclusively to save money because buying books on Audible can be a little expensive. But if you are into Audible, then awesome. You keep the books and you can listen to them time and time again. Okay. Let's see, we're getting toward the end here. What time is it? 10 o'clock. Okay, let's wrap things up. So we've got Daniel saying hi from Mexico City. Neutron, this was really excellent. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Sim, thanks for your tips. No problem. So because I basically can't work with my best friend since she will ask me a question about every 15 minutes. Headphones, my friend. These guys. Noise canceling headphones, if you have them, really, really good. I think with friends it's tough because that boundary isn't quite there. I think if it becomes something that's actually crippling you from working, you need to do this. You need to have a straight up talk and be like, hey, this is coming from a spot of love, a place of love, but I really need you to not bother me when I'm working. And what that means is if the headphones are on, you can't communicate with me unless it's an emergency. And then what you owe your best friend is time in which you guys can talk and connect. So maybe it's every 2 hours, you go outside, you take a walk around the neighborhood, and that's when you talk. Come back in, you're working, okay? You have to have those boundaries. What else we got? This is the one thing, this one's not about time management, but what do you think that customers are willing to pay in digital currencies like Bitcoin if it's an option? Don't know. I don't know a thing about Bitcoin. Sorry, man. I have no idea. Really, hey, Korea. Sorry. How do I say your name? Jinayu from Korea. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your comment. Mohammed. Hey, thanks, man. No worries. Appreciate it. Sweet. I think we're at the end of the comment stack, guys. I can't believe it looks like we have a lot more people tuned into this live stream than the last one. I don't know if if it's becoming something that you guys are getting used to tuning into, or if this topic's more interesting than the other ones, or if me pushing out reminders is helpful. But I really hope to keep pushing these and making them more valuable and getting more people online. I think it's a lot of fun. And if there's more topics, you guys need to let me know. So I'm actually going to log off. If you guys have suggestions for the next episode, just feel free to comment on what freelance related topic you want to see in this video, whether it's in the comment section now or later when this uploads to YouTube. And then, yeah, until next time, guys, as usual, happy rendering.